Hello everyone, I'm a little bit sick, so I'm going to go through this a little bit softly, but now I'm coming into your new chapter, chapter 4, where we talk about era peralihan kuasa British di negara kita. That means this is going to follow up to your chapter 3, where the Japanese have already left our country. The whole bombing situation happened from your little boy and fat man, where your British menyerah kalah. We learned all about this in 3.9. Now, during this time, we're going to talk about something special, the British Military Administration, which is how the British tried to take back our country after the Japanese left. Now, you might be thinking they immediately came in, but in 3.9, we discussed that did not occur, that they had a kelewatan. That means they were late. 他们迟到。Why was that so? Because they had a lot of legal matters, a lot of official things to handle about the war officially ending. And for how long were they gone? 14 days before they officially came back. These 14 days were an opportunity for a particular party, your Bintang Tiga, to manipulate this particular timeline to do what? To take over your country. Well, not your country, our country, Malaysia. And thus, in 4.1, we're going to go a little bit, we're just going to go touch the surface on what the British tried to do. BMA, your British Military Administration. Focus on the word military here, because we're telling you that after World War II happened, they reinforced this whole military thing. So let's start. Before we go into the factors to why we have the BMA, we must state, okay, what is the background? So, the latar belakangnya, so it started on the 12th of September 1945, after World War II. And diketuai, that means it was led by this guy called Lord Mountbatten. If you remember in your 3.9, you can flip over to your textbook, let's see, page 83. You will see that there is a section where they tell you that selepas Jepun menyerah kalah, Lord Louis Mountbatten, this man, pemerintah tertinggi tentera bersekutu di Asia Tenggara merancang untuk segera mendarat di Tanah Melayu semula. But as we just said, this plan did not go through because there was a lot of upacara penyerahan rasmi, a lot of formal things they had to settle up. So you can know this guy, he was very, very pressured that we should go. He pushed that we should immediately go, so you can kind of get a feel for his personality. Now, aside from him, who is the pemerintah tertinggi, we have another guy called your Brigadier General H.C. Willen, which is your Timbalan Ketua Pegawai Hal Ehwal Awam. It's okay, this one we can pass through it, it's not as important. Now, coming to something that is a little bit more interesting, what was the point of the British creating this whole new administration? What is this whole new government system? So, we're going to go through the two reasons why they started this. Number one, mengembalikan kestabilan dan keamanan, to bring back, return stability and peace in our country. Number two, memulihkan kepercayaan rakyat, to bring back the trust of the people towards the British. So how so? Let's start here first. You might be thinking, why do we need to return the peace and stability? Well, that means someone clearly didn't pay attention in chapter 3. See, after all that happened, right, we know that the communist parties, they were kind of going insane, taking over the entire Tanah Melayu. So, if you look over to your textbook, they tell you that BMA berusaha untuk memulihkan keamanan dan kestabilan dengan membubarkan. Now, this word, membubarkan, we've already learned before, when the Japanese membubarkan your KMM. But in this case, the membubarkan here, which means to 解散, we should almost pecahkan, to almost tear something apart. Your pasukan, MPAJA, remember, your Malayan People Anti-Japanese Army, mengarah semua senjata, all of their weapons, to be what? To be returned. Senjata dikembalikan. And all of these weapons diberikan kepada mereka semasa pendudukan Jepun. These were weapons given by the British, and now they're trying to create orders that, hey, you should return these things. Now, do you think this was successful? Obviously not. If it was successful, well, you can imagine history played out very differently. See, these people from the MPAJA already have a taste of power, and they're not just gonna give it up to the British people who came 2 weeks after their reign. So then we tell you, okay, BMA, they gagal. BMA gagal mengumpulkan semula senjata. Mengumpulkan means what? They failed to take back all the weapons. Okay, mengumpulkan semula senjata tersebut. And at the same time, BMA, the British military administration, gagal, failed at doing what? Let me put a big word here. Gagal. Fail, okay? What else they failed at doing? They also did not manage to membantaras kegiatan jenayah. What the freak? Okay, jenayah, we know what this is. It's a crime. So any kind of criminal activity. Membantaras in this situation means to take something from its roots and like eliminate that, sort of like find the root of the situation. Since we know that we have a lot of crimes going on. For example, keganasan, which means violence. Kongsi gelap means like blackmailing. And then kemasalah ketegangan kaum. We have a lot of tension between the races, because remember, a lot of the communist people are Chinese. A lot of people they were attacking, which means people who are supporting Japanese were Malays. So you can imagine just what kind of racist pot they were stirring up. So this is the first thing that we know that the British failed to do. What else did they try to do? See, they also wanted to memulihkan kepercayaan rakyat, to make them trust them again. How? See, semasa pemerintahan Jepun, rakyat hidup dalam kesusahan. That is your keyword here, your rakyat. They did not live well at all. Then they give you some contohs. Example, bekalan makanan dan ubat-ubatan sukar di dalam peti. That means it was really hard to get access to food and your medicine. That's why we have in chapter 3.7 we have Sibu Kaligasu with like the medicine and all. Then kebuluran berleluas. Kebuluran is referring to starvation. Berleluasan means it's expanding, it's everywhere. Tiada wang membeli makanan. The people don't have enough money to buy food. And thus, without food, starvation everywhere, no medicine. What happened was, well, everyone got sick. Wabak penyakit semakin merebak. That means the sicknesses just kept spreading. Seperti beriberi, which is a protein deficiency. Then kegiatan menyorok barang here means to hoard things. That means you take everything for yourself. You hoard them and don't share them with others. Menyorok barang, amalan rasa we all know lo. And then peras ugut dan pasaran gelap meaning black market. Peras ugut meaning you threaten people. Now, actually, I didn't explain rasa. Rasa just means corruption in this situation. Di Kuala Lumpur, semakin berleluasa. This happened everywhere. Semakin tidak terkawal. Dan masa ini berakar umbi sehingga gagal dibanteras oleh BMA. They did not succeed in solving this issue. And you see, rakyat that are living in these terrible situations, mereka berharap, they were hoping like, hey, the British are back. Maybe they can be saved. Dapat diselamatkan. They can be saved by the BMA. But you can imagine, did that really happen? No, folks. See, what really happened was, we have a little table to show you, I think. Yeah. So, we can easily simplify this to usaha yang dilakukan. So, what did your BMA do? They weren't completely useless, see? They weren't completely useless. The BMA mengambil alih pentadbiran bagi mengembalikan kepercayaan rakyat. They took over your government system all over again. Then, at the same time, rakyat, they actually supported, because they were like, holy shit, the Japanese were so much worse. So, menyokong, they supported British coming back. Then, British, this is your harapan, right? The Brits, see, berharap pemulihan. Pemulihan means what? The restoration of your social economy. Could do what? Could return the trust of the people. But you see, we use the word harap because did that really happen? No, see, what really happened with all these usaha is that number one, they did not succeed in getting back their trust, earning back the trust of the people. Why? Because they failed to memulih, to restore their ladang getah. Ladang getah meaning the rubber farms. Okay, the place where they plant rubber in a sense. Now, what else did they fail to do? Well, they did not manage to membaiki prasarana dan kemudahan kesihatan. They failed to membaiki means to fix all of the hospitals. Kemudahan kesihatan dan prasarana means the same thing. Something like infrastructure in a sense. Your healthcare. Okay, I'm going to put a plus sign for healthcare. Okay? Now, actually, moving on just Ladang Getah, there's also like a Lombong BJ Timah, you know, because our country, most notably for your BJ Timah. Then finally, they also failed to membawa masuk. Now, in your textbook, it says jentera, alat ganti, machine, dan technology. Jentera means like very large machines, if you didn't know. Now, why did they fail to do this? You just need to think it logically, right? Bringing all of these machineries to save Tanah Melayu needed a lot of money and transport and time. And how much were they willing to invest in a little piece of colonized land? Not a lot. So, knowing that they failed, what was the reaction of the people? You're right, yeah, they were like, whoa man, the British can't save us. Hampa. Hampa is a keyword here. Hampa means what? 失望. They were disappointed, like your Asian parents. Hampa dengan ketidakupayaan. BMA. Ketidakupayaan means that's how useless they were. That BMA didn't really help solve any of their issues like they hoped so. So, in this sense, it also taught you what? That kita haruslah, they tell you in the end, kita haruslah bersikap waspada dan tidak mudah mempercayai kuasa asing, that all of our issues cannot be solved. Hal ini jelas berlaku apabila BMA gagal melaksanakan tugasnya ketika penduduk tempatan mengharapkan bantuan. And that is actually the entirety of chapter 1. Now, if you look at your textbook, you think, hey, there's a lot more things I didn't talk about. Well, let's talk about the table here. On page 95, there's a table where they show you inflasi dan kegiatan pasar gelap. They put it in its own section, pasar gelap meaning your black market. Now, honestly, I'm not going to discuss much about this because this is purely data, but what I can tell you is that throughout the times, you will see, right, the price increases. Let's just look at rice, for example. Per kati, right? For 1 kati of rice, it used to be 6 cents in dollar salat. Now, on the day that the Japanese came, it was $8.20. Then, well, in the Japanese currency lah. Then on July, which is like about a year or so into the Japanese colonization, the prices from $8.20 raised to how much? All the way to 36. Okay, fine. It's not that bad. Until you see, selepas perang Ogos 1945, 1945, they had crazy inflation to the point it went to $75. And you look closely at things like sugar from 18 to 72 to 120. Look at petrol from 55 to 160 to 185. What is it trying to emphasize to you is that the prices are going extremely high for the same amount of things, meaning that inflation was getting worse and worse and worse. So if you remember in chapter 3.6, we mentioned about the whole economy thing, about the whole inflation, and this is data to prove all that happened. And that's it. So the really big key things you need to know is just these two. Since chapter 4 is also quite big, just keep this in mind that this is the motif you're trying to know, is that the British are trying to solve all the damage that the Japanese caused, and the people, the million people, are like, wait a minute. They're starting to realize that maybe they can't rely on outside powers to help save their country, that we need to stand up. That's all. Thank you. Bye-bye.